Welcome to PPP, Power People podcast from Denmark. Here we meet a broad group of people representing the Danish business life and society.
What happens is with AI is that people are taking large language models that are basically going to give you a probabilistic what would happen based on a lot of historical data, based on a lot of historical knowledge that's out of context. And they're going to tell you probabilistically the next thing that would happen. So if I'm talking, the AI model could say, when probabilistically she said all these things before, the likelihood of her saying these next things is this. But most of our AI models don't even tell you the likelihood. They just tell you the next thing. They tell you the probabilistic next thing. This means it's completely overlooking the fact that there were possibilities available of what the person could have said that are being completely disregarded because they're not the most likely thing that she could have said next. And we're doing this with a lot of things. And so the core to being able to understand when to use AI and when not to use AI is understanding when you're working with something that is determinate in nature, meaning the outcome of this should be able to be predictably determined, versus it actually can't be predictably determined, that the interplay in relationships and the interplay of context with knowledge matters in this context. In quantum physics, it creates more mystery than it solves, but it has given us scientific understanding of the fact that certain things are not deterministic in nature. And that's an important piece of information. If we look back at history, when the majority of people look to a god or something, it was because we believed that everything must be predetermined and that God has predetermined it. So that means it gives us a really convenient way of looking at life, actually, because it's like, doesn't matter what I do, whatever's going to be will be, right? There's some peace in that phrase, like whatever will be, will be. People console themselves in that. And religion and gods, they actually gave us words to say, it's okay to trust something bigger than yourself, to have all the power. In Christianity, in the Bible, it says to trust in the Lord with all your heart. And then it actually tells you to lean not into your own understanding. It tells you to put your agency to the side because you don't have any agency. So historically, we've been indoctrinated to believe whatever will be, and we don't have any power. And this is all built on this idea that the universe and reality and whatever's going to happen to us as a species, as a planet, as a person, all of it, that the outcome is predictable. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. The best we can do is enjoy the ride. But when the quantum physicists surprised themselves, in Copenhagen actually is where they talked about it, Niels Bohr, Albert Einstein, they came together and they said, there's actually some things that seem to be that when we try to apply the physical understandings of Newtonian physics, the outcome is not consistent. It's not predictable. It has the outcome relies on the interplay of the actors, the agents, whatever those may be. It could be people in an organization. It could be machines. It could be a lot of different things. But whenever the interplay between the actors influences the outcome, you're looking at a space that quantum physicists call indeterminate in nature. And so you have these two types of things, indeterminate things and determinate things. And they're always living together. And this is where things get tricky. You look at, for example, organizations, and they want to make transformation, for example. They really want to do things differently. But they're trying to apply the law of physics. They're trying to treat that like an engineering project and say, if I push these buttons, these things are going to happen. But they're dealing with people. So what they do is they try to roll these transformations out like an engineering project. And then when the outcome doesn't happen the way they want it to happen, they blame the people. Because it's like, oh, surprise, people matter. Yeah, but we knew people matter to begin with. We should have been able to know in advance. If you want to change a culture, then the way the people behave is the culture. You don't tell them how to change the culture. Culture is an emergent property of people's behavior. It's not the other way around. You can't make a behavioral change by saying, I want you to behave this way. Now I'm going to train you to behave this way. And then if you don't behave this way at the end of it, then you don't belong here in our culture. Yay, I'm so transformative. So instead, it's important to look earlier on into what is determinate in nature and what's not determinate in nature. And this comes with projects at work, when you want to create systemic change, and it also has something to do with AI. Because when we treat things that are indeterminate in nature as if they're determinate in nature, we're essentially taking our own power away. We're taking away our power and giving it to something else. Now, when this happened with gods, that was because we didn't know any better. We thought everything's determinate in nature, so God, the universe, whatever's going to be deciding, we gave them our power, and that was fine. We saw ourselves as powerless, you could say. Once we know things are indeterminate in nature, what that actually means is that we have power. And that means for good and bad. We have power, but that also means we have responsibility, a massive amount of responsibility, to be an actor in an indeterminate system with other actors who we may not like. We certainly can't predict their behavior either. So where does that leave us? We're basically now having a role in the outcome of our future as a species. But it's super easy to just look at the other actors and say, those people, they don't want to do sustainability, and those people, they're doing all these bad things, and those people are doing this wrong. And I'm guilty of it myself. I go to a lot of meetings where we talk about systemic change, and 99% of them focus on what we hate about current reality. What we observe reality in a more holistic way, yes, but we talk about what we don't like about it, because it's very difficult to talk about what you want to see instead, because you can't do the engineering project. You can't say, okay, we want to create a reality over here. We want a paradigm shift. You can't call for a paradigm shift and then design a to-be paradigm and then design the process steps to get to the new paradigm. And we know this because systems thinkers, people who consider themselves systems thinkers, know that the nature of systemic change is that it's not predictable. So that puts us in a predicament, right? We kind of know we need to take responsibility, but we also know that we can't linearly we can't linearly prescribe how to get from A to a B that we like better. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a very depressing state. You go and you bond with people and you kind of throw your hands in the air and say, we can't do anything. We can't, it's the politicians that need to do it. It's somebody else that needs to do it. But what I am advocating for is that just because we can't prescribe what to do doesn't mean we can't do anything. What we can do is, first of all, set intentions. And setting intentions of what you want, what good would look like, is different than reacting to what bad is. I make this mistake a lot. In the AI conversation, I recently pulled out of it because I get so frustrated by the reality as it is. The reality as it is, what I see when I go to leadership meetings, is a bunch of people who are selling AI solutions telling leaders that if they don't get on board the AI train, that they're going to become laggards, they're going to be left behind, their relevancy is going to be lost. This is not appealing to an intention. This is appealing to a fear. This is appealing to fear and expecting leaders to react by saying, okay, well, I better get on the AI train. And then they come to consultants like me and they say, could you please make an AI solution for this? And that should never be the starting point. The starting point shouldn't be, can I use AI for this? The starting point should be, what kind of problem do you have and what's the best way to try to solve it? And then that brings you into a space of trying to understand the systemic nature of your problem. Is it deterministic in nature? If it is, then AI might be a good tool for you to start looking at, because if you have a lot of ordered systems and a lot of problems within those deterministic systems that are complicated, AI is very useful. AI is very useful in that space. But if you have indeterminate problems, trying to throw AI at them is extremely dangerous, because it will give you an answer, and it will give you an answer that feels good because it's probable. But if we want to actually grow and evolve, we need to move beyond probability. We have to move into the space of possibility, because evolution occurs when something that has happened before and that is happening, you could call it the status quo, forms a relationship and starts learning from something new, and then changes itself into something new based on that learning relationship that's in context. But if we don't allow those opportunities to happen because we've decided already that probabilistically this was the answer, we're basically missing out on finding possibilities, because the act of finding possibilities is hard and rigorous. It's not easy. It doesn't feel good. In fact, finding new possibilities often feels really bad. Think about any time you've changed in your life. You've gone through a transformation. It's usually on the other side of something really painful. Maybe you went through a bad relationship, someone died that was really close to you. And then you've had to go through a lot of suffering, and then that suffering has informed you in different ways, and then you've learned something, and then you've made sense of something in a new way, and you start looking for new possibilities. If we want to be able to do that at scale, optimizing for efficiency only is going to put us in a position where we're tied to solutions of the past. Is not going to bring us into the future.